Hey there, guys. All right, today we are on to week 43 of World War II, June 22nd, 1940. Nazi Europe, the fall of France. There's really nothing else to say about that. The Allies have been completely stupid. So let's just go ahead and get more frustrated at the pure incompetency and, in some respects, possible um uh, collaboration, at least in the Hunsinger. I truly believe there's no in between. He is either a complete idiot, and I do not understand how he got to the ranking that he did, or he is a active collaborator. And honestly, I might be leaning more towards collaborator, because someone in the comments section, the first time I believe we heard of Hunsinger's name, or well, when Hunsinger did his stupid decision in Belgium or whatever it was, and he pulled back, I think. Someone told me that he became a active member of Vichy France, so I do believe he's probably a collaborator. He had far right sympathies. Anyways, let's dive in.
Wait, they're joining the fight? Why?
Italians?
June 22nd, 1940. Last week, Paris fell to the Germans, so you might have guessed what would come this week, and come it does. An armistice.
Sorry, I have the brain of a child. Oh well, middle school boy. Times.
I'm Indy Nidell. This is World War II. Last week, Paris fell, as I said, and the Germans continued to advance all across France. Italy declared war on Britain and France, and the Soviet Union made demands on Lithuania and then occupied Vilnius and Kaunas. This week, there were more Soviet demands on other nations in the region. The long and short of it, though, is that on the 16th, the Soviets enter Latvia and Estonia, and all three Baltic states are occupied. Time magazine reports 500,000 Red Army troops entering the three nations over a period of days. Okay, there were already Soviet troops there to a lesser extent, since they had demanded and got military bases, as we saw last fall. Now, Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov has accused them of conspiracy against the Soviet Union and demanded they establish governments of which the Soviets approve. Elections will be held in a few weeks. I wonder who's going to win. We'll find out soon enough. They are not the only ones forming new governments, though. That's happening over in war-torn France as well. But here's the action in the field there first. On the 16th, Dijon falls to the Germans.
Not the mustard.
Maginot Line defenses on the Franco-German border and the 400,000 men manning them are now isolated but still holding out. The 17th, Heinz Guderian is nearly to the Swiss border. Other German units advance.
Jesus, the Germans are just moving so fast, dude.
In Brittany and Normandy. The Allies have been evacuating men from the mainland at different points beginning the 15th and 16th, Operation Ariel. From Saint-Malo, 21,474 over 2 days. From Brest, 32,584. Evacuations from Saint-Nazaire take 3 days and move 57,235 men. From Cherbourg, the number is 30,630 British and Canadian troops. There is one major disaster during all of this. On the 17th, RMS Lancastria is sunk by the Germans while serving as a troop ship. Over 3,000 people died in Britain's worst maritime disaster, and some estimates of the number of dead are over 5,000. This is more, by the way, than the Titanic and Lusitania combined. The evacuations continue, though. Over the next week, 19,000 people, mostly Poles, from Bayonne and Saint-Jean-de-Luz. Since Dunkirk, 144,171 British, 18,236 French, 24,352 Poles, 4,938 Czechs, and a few.
How'd the Czechs get there?
Belgians, nearly 200,000 people total, have been evacuated. On the 19th, the British begin evacuating the Channel Islands. Okay, at the beginning of the week in France, there is a cabinet meeting. Deputy Prime Minister Philippe Pétain calls for an immediate armistice with Germany. Prime Minister Paul Reynaud wants to ask Britain to release France from the obligation to not make a separate peace. Britain doesn't really have much choice but to agree, though their condition is the promise that the French fleet immediately sail for British ports so it doesn't fall into German hands. The French do not make this promise. Britain proposes a union of the two nations so that even if France is overrun, they can still make war together. Guéhenno is for this. His colleagues are not, so he resigns. Pétain becomes prime minister and takes office the 17th with Maxime Weygand, his defense minister. They announce that they are asking Germany for armistice terms. That day, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill broadcasts that the Battle of France is over and the Battle of Britain is about to begin.
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States...
Wait a minute, buddy. Let's calm down.
Including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss of a new dark age. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. So bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say...
You got about 20 more years or so.
This was their finest hour.
The next day, French General Charles de Gaulle, not yet well known to most of his country, broadcasts from London to fight on, that only a battle and not a whole war has been lost. He points out that this is a world war, and everything needed in the world to defeat the Germans still exists. He forms a French government in exile. On the 20th, when Lyon and Vichy fall to the Germans, Pétain is told to send an armistice delegation to Tours, where a temporary ceasefire is in effect. This delegation, led by General Charles Hunziker, is driven to
Hunziker?
Compiègne Forest, where they meet the triumphant Adolf Hitler. The armistice is to be signed aboard the same railway car where the 1918 armistice was signed. The Germans
That is so petty.
present armistice terms to the French the 21st. There is to be no negotiating. On the 22nd, Hunziker signs. And what are the terms of that armistice? And why does Hitler agree to one at all and not just take all of France, which he could probably fairly quickly? Let's go through it. Germany will occupy around 3/5 of France, north and west of a line from Geneva to Tours and then down to the Spanish border. This gives Germany access to all of the French Atlantic and Channel ports. The unoccupied region in the south will be under the administration of a French prime minister and cabinet and left relatively free, so it has a semblance of legitimacy, though it is also to administer the occupied area, but that is under heavy restriction. Here's the thing, though.
Okay.
This administration is also responsible for France's colonial empire, and that is a big deal. Hitler does not at all want the French to continue to fight from bases in North Africa, especially backed by the French Navy. That is his big concern. And if he pushes too far with his demands, that's what he thinks might happen. So he wants that navy removed from the board. It is to be disarmed, but not surrendered. Germany also does not have the resources to occupy French overseas territories. But maintaining an independent and neutral French state will deny their use to the British. France can even maintain a small army under armistice terms. France is now required to hand over any German nationals that have been granted asylum as refugees from Nazism. Although not written out, in effect, this means mainly thousands of Jews who fled persecution in Germany and will now be taken to concentration camps. The French also have to pay the costs of occupation, some 400 million francs a day.
Damn.
Hunziker complains that the terms are harsher than the Allies' armistice terms on Germany were in 1918. But Wilhelm Keitel, arranger of the armistice, says it's this or it's nothing. However, this is only to last until a final peace treaty can be negotiated. And since no one thinks that's going to take too long, no one complains that captured French soldiers will remain prisoners of war until the end of all hostilities. There are 1,538,000 of them. With a French government in place, Germany is free from the burden of administration and can focus on Britain. France, though, still has other fish to fry. They are also at war with Italy. They do ask for an armistice with Italy this week, even as the Italian invasion of France begins. The French Alpine Army, Armée des Alpes, has had men removed for other sectors since September last year. By this time, what had been 550,000 troops is now 175,000, though just half of them are frontline troops. So there are only around 80,000 troops ready to confront the Italians along the border. The Italians have 6 army corps made up of 34 divisions, 26 frontline and 8 reserve, totaling more than 500,000 men. That is a substantial advantage. Already back on May 20th, General René Orly, commander of the Armée des Alpes, figured the Italians were set to begin a general offensive at any time. And now the Italians cross at points all along the border, the 4th Army attacking in the mountains in the north, and the 1st Army further south and along the coast. Along the Riviera, the 80,000 or so Italians advance almost 10 kilometers, but they are opposed by nearly 40,000 Frenchmen, which is the greatest concentration of soldiers the French have along the border. The Italians occupy Fontaine, but that's basically it. As for the Alpine front, there is no way the French can fight an actual pitched battle. The enemy has far too many men for that. This is, in fact, the main Italian attack. So Orly's plan is to do whatever he can to harass and delay an Italian advance long enough to withdraw his forces in good order to a main line of resistance. The French have organized defenses around Tarentaise and Beaufortin, and these can hopefully stop a breakthrough. Also, French sappers got to work as soon as Italy declared war, blowing obstacles into the route they figured an advance would come by. Civilians were all evacuated in the region. The Italians can't really advance either north or south here until they've taken the Col d'Enclave and Col de Bonhomme. On the 21st, advanced Italian units managed to take the French strongpoint approaching the Col d'Enclave. But as they bring in reinforcements, French artillery opens up on them and just mauls them on the mountainside. The next day comes the big attack. The Italians came in a frontal attack, floundering through the snow in a dense wave. Shellfire and machine gun bullets cut great swaths in their ranks. Blood flowed across the snow, and flocks of chamois, the agile mountain goats, lent an incongruous note to the battle as they bounded across the bodies of dead and dying men, fleeing in terror from the storm of shrapnel that turned their mountain home into a slaughterhouse. The French hold all day, and as the week comes to an end, night falls in the Alps, and the temperature, even in mid-June, falls to below freezing. The Italians also attack towards Bourg Saint-Maurice through the Petit Saint-Bernard Pass the 21st, but are unable to break through the French and break out of the pass. But far to the east, someone has broken through, the Japanese. The Battle of Zhaoyang Yishang ends this week on the 18th with a Japanese victory. They took Yishang last week, which gives them control of the water routes of Hubei, Hunan, and Sichuan provinces, but also a base 400 kilometers from the nationalist capital at Chongqing, which they can now bomb relatively easily. This also deals a heavy blow to Chinese morale. And this week of warfare ends, and as it does, so too does the fighting between France and Germany. Though the Italians are now fighting the French, men by the hundreds of thousands have evacuated the continent at its west end, and in the east, the Baltics are now swarming with Soviet troops, and their governments have been toppled.
But the Soviets said that there would be free and fair elections. Everything's fine.
The German offensive from May 10th until today, June 22nd, was truly devastating and one of the quickest such campaigns for its size in military history. The lightning armored thrust, backed by huge air support, has taken military strategy to a new level. There has been a large element of luck, sure, and a large element of confusion or chaos in their enemy's chain of command, of which the Germans have taken great advantage, but they have also been intelligent, flexible, and with a clear command structure. They still could have lost if the Allies had been in a position to make more attacks like the British at Arras or the French at Hanot, but this was not the case. The German success is also owed to the leadership of the generals, who took considerable personal risk in leading from command vehicles at the front. But there is rain on almost every parade. And if there is rain on this one, it is that leadership from the front has a heavy price in officers killed, who are not easily replaceable, and that heavy airstrikes against enemy air forces means losing planes. The Luftwaffe just lost over 1,400 planes destroyed in 6 weeks, and their only remaining active enemy is an island nation. Food for thought.
It's true.
If you want to understand more about how...
No. Anyways, that was week 43 of World War II, June 22nd, 1940. Nazi Europe, the fall of France. This was one of those episodes where there really isn't anything to talk about. It was very much just army movement. There really wasn't. I mean, there's stuff to be talked about in regards to the establishment of Vichy France, but I'm sure actual dialogue regarding that will show up in the coming weeks. There really wasn't much. I feel like there really wasn't much substance here for wider discussion. Maybe we could talk about Churchill's speech. I don't know, a bit fear-mongery, right? Essentially trying to sway perhaps also American public opinion with that speech, which you cannot blame the man. He's wanting more open American support. He wants active American support, likely. So can't blame him for that, for including that sort of dialogue into his rhetoric there. That'd be the right wording? I don't know. But anyways, I have really nothing else to say here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as well as I did. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.